something. Basically, it's going to give you back you make a request through a chat bot, chat GPT, then that's generative AI that responds. Large language models, not something that you really need to be concerned with, but it's just that big piece of data that's been put together in a way that we can make use of it, but then we have to be able to communicate with it. Artificial narrow intelligence, ANI, that's pretty much where we are today. It's pretty much the AI that it's focused on like a single task. And so so certain models are built that basically are used to specialize at task. I work for the University of California, San Francisco. We're healthcare, education, research, and their main thing is that you know, they have, in the case of healthcare, they don't want data or this information. And I do have a diagram that shows how all this stuff comes together because I'm a visual learner myself. And it takes, and they don't want data coming from some whack quack doctor that said you can create fix a headache by chopping off the person's arm. They don't want that being fed into there. So is set up for specific tasks with specific data, and we'll see how that's made. The rest of the stuff is futuristic. The artificial general deep learning, all that's not super important. Something that the Imam talks about sometimes is about the brain and how it functions, and that deep learning aspect is basically AI taking on that's mimicking that same behavior, and it's the way that it learns. So I'm going to keep moving because I got to keep track of time. Um, so this is how this whole thing works. And so if we look up here and I pray and I'm just asking, we are seeing the screen correctly?
Yes, we
Yeah.
are.
Okay. All right. Alhamdulillah. So when we look at this is what AI is made from. This is the whole thing is the AI system and our interaction with it. Is we have data sources, and that's just data that's dumped into this thing that it does its machine learning off of. Those can be in the form of texts, Excel files, XML files. Actually, it does a lot of code. You were like, why would it want to have code? How do I program? How do you do certain things? It actually helps it learn. It helps it understand structure and processes and format. And so it takes all these different data sources. Basically, it scrapes the entire internet or anything that it can get. And it dumps it into this thing that ultimately comes into what's called this data lake. And a data lake is just a big, a lot of data stored in some place. That stuff gets massaged as data pipeline. We don't need that, no details about that feature engineering. And then the model development is the thing where we actually take, and that's where we end up with these different models. When we go into the chat GPT, we could go up to the top left-hand corner. It says, which model do you want to use? Do you want to use this one? Because this one's good at reasoning. You use this one, it's good at math. And so this is where they develop the different types of models. Then it's taken, shipped up, and this is what stuff that sits in the data center, and that interfaces with us. Now this gets to us. Um, we consume the data through the chat GPT. That's an application. Other applications, AI agents, we'll talk about them later. They take advantage of the interface. And then APIs. And APIs are application program interfaces. Nothing mystery, no mystery there. That's how computers basically talk to computers. Applications talk to applications. If I need to constantly be asking this thing something, then I do it via API. I don't try to sit up there and do it manually. It's too slow. What's behind the curtain? This is just kind of like something to say, okay, all right. And so CPUs and GPUs, CPUs are the things that are generally in their general purpose processors, and those are what are in our computers. They do a certain function, and those functions are usually what we call sequential functions. You tell it to do something, it submits it, it comes back with a response. It submits it, it comes back with a response. Whereas with GPUs, are graphical programming units. Those actually do things in parallel. So if I, in this case here, I need to process all that stuff and put that stuff in that data lake and take and do the machine learning on it. GPUs, let's think of a freeway with 10 lanes in it. A GPU mainly functions in parallel, and it doesn't actually have a dedicated where it's taken and it's saying, okay, do this. On each of those lanes that it has, and it has thousands of lanes for a single GPU. And if we look at one of these units over here in this shelf here, that actually is a couple GPUs. This GPU has thousands of cores, and we think of cores, we'll think of a CPU. So this thing's got thousands and thousands of cores in it to handle these little one-off tasks. I have a complete task to do. I'm giving one to you core, I'm giving one another core, and so forth. This is where the kind of stuff with kind of like the wow factor is that here's NVIDIA's CEO, and he's pictured with this thing called the NVLink spine. And this spine is what interconnects all these GPUs, these thousands of GP or hundreds of GPUs that are talking to each other. And when we look at it, what's so crazy about it, for crazy for me, is the because you got to have processing has to happen fast. And so the transfer of the data in between these units is at 130 terabytes per second. What's 130 terabytes second mean to you? The whole processing of the internet, the whole world internet at a peak time is 110 terabytes per second. The whole internet in the world processing. And this is all happening right here. So this is why AI happens so fast. Within there is 2 miles of 5,000 coax cables. This is something I was going to ask for interaction, but I'm not going to bother you. But we already use the genie's already out of the lamp. We use AI all the time. We use Siri, Alexa, YouTube when it takes and it presents data to you through content recommendations, Netflix, all that stuff. Same with shopping, Amazon. You shoppers, I stay away from Amazon myself. My wife doesn't. We have the Amazon. You would think that this is a depot here, the way that truck pulls up. All right, so chatbots. So chatbots, that's that interface for us. So we saw that we ended up with this LLM, which was this brains of this thing. I don't know how to communicate to that thing. My application has to know how to interface with that big thing out there that's got all this information that I would like. And that chatbot is that interface. That's the chatbot that actually simulates through natural language processing, which is another terminology that bridges between the chatbot and the LLM. That chatbot takes and you could put in text and language or whatever, and it's, excuse me, and then it communicates back to you. Otherwise, it wouldn't know how to communicate with you. Two examples of chatbots that we see today is customer service. You always see that you're like, hey, I want to talk to a real person. I want to talk. I'm paying you every month. I want to talk to a real person. And then the sales and marketing where they're trying to sell you something because you're trying to go get customer service, but it's still trying to sell you more. Okay, so now let's get into the core of what I want to teach today or review today is the genie. Teach me how to prompt. What is prompting and why is it so important? Prompting is what we put in as a question to our chat GPT or our Copilot or our Gemini. Those are the different chat bots that are available. And so this is, I want to talk and I need to get a specific answer from you. And that's why this is so important. And we'll show an example of just asking something without providing any detail versus providing detail. So the importance is because the quality of the prompt is the quality of what you're going to get back in your response. So the prompting is important. We're going to go over it, and I have material that I'm going to share with you for it to do it, and you'll be definitely amazed about that. If I had to take this in a nutshell, they have different prompting frameworks. It's different for the different chat bots. They all kind of lean to a certain way, but I could ask each chat bot the same question, providing that I'm giving it certain details. And in this case here, this framework is called RAIN, role, aim, input, and numeric target. I use a variation of this. I tell the AI what it is. you're the wisest person, you're the most brilliant person in, say, finance in the world renowned, 30 years experience. This sets an expectation for the chatbot. You don't ask it a chatbot, it's going to become like a search engine. Ask you a question, I'm going to give you a response. But now I'm setting the expectation for that chatbot, and that chatbot AI agent's job is to do nothing but provide that objective. So now you've upped the ante and you're saying you're a specialist. So I expect a specialist type response. So I tell it who it is. What do I want from you? And then if I want the return or the data returned in a certain manner, I tell it that. But then I could give it certain details too. I might not trust that the LLM's collected data is from a certain resource that might be a foreign country resource, which it knows about. But I'm just going to say, and then go to this site too, and this type of data is what I need to complete this task. And I hope I'm not going too fast for anyone. I'm sorry. I am. We're going to take in again, Perplexity is another chatbot that's out there, but these are the types of things. And this is where we're starting to see why this conversation that we're having right now is important. This thing I could ask it, and we're going to see examples of this because I'm going to enter these prompts when we go through the demo part. So industry trends, deep dives, research papers, just summarize it for me. Give me a product comparisons. You might be looking at going out and buying a new TV. Just spit it in chatbot. Don't depend on Consumer Reports. Let chat do it for you. That's again, that's the genie. Okay. So we're going to save all the demos for the end. Genie, help educate myself and others. Recently, you heard OpenAI and their Chat GPT engine, they released a new thing called Study and Learn, or they call it study mode. So instead of just saying, tell me, you're asking the chat bot a question, instead of just getting a response back, in study mode, it will tell it, you ask the question and it's not going to give you an answer outright. It's going to take and explain to you how to get that answer or how that answer, and we'll see examples. But this thing here is invaluable. I mean, I have my daughter with my granddaughter on this. If you got a problem, if you're running into something in class and you don't understand it, go to chat GPT study mode and ask for an explanation, and we'll see that. Although the content is targeted for college and high school students, it's expectation. All you got to do is change and set the expectation. Say, hey, I'm a sixth grader and I need to understand this. Okay. I think I'm making good time here. Genie, help me create wealth. Right. I tell you, I put that genie to work. I was in the Silicon Valley during the internet boom. Sorry, I don't have much of the value, financial value that existed there, but I was in the boom where when I worked for Cisco System at the time, and basically the paper was falling out of facts of people buying Cisco equipment, and so, but during this time right now, you're talking about 500 unicorns, just AI companies, 500 AI unicorn companies valued at over $1 billion. The point that my emphasis for you here is that the gold rush is far from over. You need to understand this technology. People every day, I look on the internet and I see some guy on YouTube and he's like, I'll sell you this service for $100 a month. Just subscribe to my service for $100. Dude, I could create that same application myself using vibe coding, which is a new technology where you don't have to know how to code at all. It just takes and you tell it what you need and it'll produce it. And being a security person, it's not going to be the most secure application, so you probably get hacked, but it'll do it. And so the value is in knowing, and that's what this the difference here going to be between the knows and the no nots. Notebook LM business use cases. I'm not going to go through these. I'm going to provide you a document on these. But and then Notebook LM again is, and I'll show you why it's my favorite out of all AI technology, and we'll talk about that. But in the case here, you hear about people saying, "Hey, optimize your website for search engine optimization, SEO, and and then you have these YouTube content or YouTube influencers. These people don't even create this content. Some of them have a site that's driving revenue, and all they've done is went to AI, and we'll see it during the demo and said, "Hey, give me a 20-minute session or a 20-minute video on this topic." Okay, so this is how money's made, and people are making it. All right. Here's one of the important factors is, are you hallucinating again? This this is it happens all the time. Not all the time, but hallucinations is when you ask the large language model, and out of it's just spit garbage. Let's say garbage. And in technology terms, we have a term called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. And so, unfortunately, in today's environment, there's a lot of garbage going in. So in this case, as an example, is that I've got the when I'm doing my data collection, I got one thing over here saying that slavery in the US was nothing more than a part-time job that paid excellent benefits to what the true realities of slavery were. So when AI has to go and figure out, because you've asked something about slavery, it's conflicted. It doesn't know how to resolve that. And so it kind of gets in like a mind lock. Had this happen the other day. I asked AI to do something, and if it can't do it, it won't tell you that it can't do it. It'll just sit there and say, I'm thinking. And then nowadays they even got Chat GPT that has an attitude. I told it, I said, I've asked you 3 times. You told me you paused 3 times, and I'm just gonna have to go to somebody else. And the thing basically tells me, you're interrupting me, so I can't complete the task. And so okay. Again, and this is why Google Notebook LM is one of my favorites, because what you've done is you've created that knowledge base that you're pulling from, and we're going to see examples of that. So basically, with Notebook LM, it's pretty much hallucination free because it's only grabbing from the data that's available that you've created in your notebook, and this is extremely invaluable. And as you saw, you can create businesses from it. Proceed with caution. Here's the realities. You got a lot of bias stuff that's going in. And so don't ever trust all your results. Make sure that you review your results. Chatbot exchanges are not protected by legal confidentiality. Um, they could get it pulled in civil course cases. They actually still identify you not by name, but by a ID that they've assigned to you. And so if they come to you and say, "Hey, brother Muhammad, tell me what he's been doing," and they'll just go and easy search, pull it out, and then you recently heard where Meta AI or Facebook AI was actually publicly pushing people's queries into the AI, which might not have been good for some people, I understand, because they might have been saying, "Hey, I met this new hottie, and I'm wondering where to take her." And then the person's wife says, "Oh, really?" when he gets home. And so just an example. Now they still put it out there, but they'll actually take and give you a warning. Hey, this is going to be publicly posted, so watch out. And then if you go in there, this does identify you by your Facebook ID or handle. So how do you protect yourself? Oops, excuse me. Review your privacy policies when you sign up for this stuff. Adjust privacy settings, and then opt out when possible, and then use it in incognito mode. All right, I'm not even going to spend any time on this, but the Waymo vehicles in the Bay Area here, you see the taxis that are going around driving themselves. They consist of a number of AI agents that work together that drive that thing. That reads, it looks at the cameras, sees what the environment is. It's done learned not only the situations like a person jumping out in the street, it already knows how to react, and that's from the AI learning that took place. I'm going to skip through this. And so when we think about that and we talk about AI agents, the question here, and I'll share this with you, I'm not going to spend any time on this, is that, is your job safe is the question. Microsoft just produced this survey or report a couple weeks ago, and they looked at, in this case, I made it 10, but it was 40 of the most impacted jobs. And then also it gave a list of those that potentially wouldn't be impacted. All right. The key here is how serious are you about this? Um, you can have a big genie or a little genie. Okay. I use two because again, they're two different AI providers and they have two different uh, LLMs that they're working off of. So I might get different varied data. So I use two of them. I paid a 19.99, and the basic thing is that that gives you the ability of more capabilities. So look into that yourself. I would suggest start with the free just to get an idea, and then go with the paid. It's well worth it. So, next steps is Imam Shoaib always says this is not a drill. This is not a drill. And after we've completed the hands-on demonstration, you'll start to question, can I really compete in the world like this without having the skills and knowledge of AI? And I would say that I can't. I use it in my job all the time. Okay. Act as if your legacy and livelihood depends upon it. Like I said, with the knowledge and training and things like that, make sure that your kids are prepared. Make sure that your grandkids are prepared. Make sure that your nieces, nephews, the person down the street, that they're prepared. And then practice prompts. Again, I'll share this, but you can take a screenshot or write down my email. I'll give you one more second before I go into the demo. Wow, I surprised myself. I usually talk too much. So, all right. So, Assalamu alaikum, shukran. Hope some benefit came from that. Now, let me do the logistic horror nightmare of trying to get out of this. And give me just one second. All right. So now I'm going to go into the demo part here. So this is the things that are important. So here's ChatGPT. Again, there's various chatbots out there. Everybody is selling theirs, and all of them have their pluses and minuses. One of the major plus with using the paid model is that your information
There's
in
nothing
there.
on the screen, Ibrahim, except
Oops.
your desktop. So you
Okay,
have to
sorry.
do a new share, inshallah.
Okay. Now, yeah, that's strange. That's not how it usually works at work. All right. We're going to do it application by application, and I think this will still work to get us there. All right, apologies. So this is ChatGPT. It's one of the many chat bots that are out there. Um, this thing has tons of value. I'm going to zip through each of my areas in 5 minutes each, and that'll get me at 6:30. So we can create a new chat here. I got a new chat. I could ask any silly question that I want, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm just trying to this part. I'm going to try to take you through the capabilities of this chat bot. And so here I have libraries, and libraries are things that I produced. I might need a copy of that thing again. So I go to my library. I might need to download it again. It's something that created. One of the true values of this chat bot is people have gone out there and, everybody, especially on YouTube and other social media, they want to prove their value, and so they show people how smart they are, so they create stuff. And so in addition to chat gpt, and you asking what you need, they got specific gpts that have been created. In this case here, scholar gpt. And here there's under education, there's one probably would have saved me a couple $1,000s while my daughter was in school, was AI for medical students, and then you open this up and it opens up this new kind of like chat window that we're looking at now, and then it helps you with studying for that. So whatever you're looking at, and there's hundreds and hundreds of areas there, right? Go into it for GPT. Canva allows us to kind of create programs, or excuse me, create PowerPoints, create images, and things like that. So now let's go into like some of the true value. So I'm going to bridge over into prompting, which prompting to me is like a key area. So here, when we talk about prompting, and in business, I got a sheet that I'm going to share with you, and I'm not going to share it right now because it'd take me through a few steps to get back. But I got a sheet listed of 1,000 productivity and business related prompts. And then these aren't even really built out like I would say I would build out a prompt, but it's going to be a lot value. So here, one of the things under kind of building your brand is say create a TikTok. And this is a prompt that's in this list of 1,000 prompts. It says create a TikTok video script for my business. And then you fill in the things, and I made a fictitious my hair care that showcases blah, blah, blah. And then the script would be used for trending hashtags and then challenges and things like that. And then it asks you, what's the persona? What group are you trying to track with it? So it comes back and says, okay, here. And it gives you a full video script of how you would shoot wide pan, crossing beauty shop, soft background beat with attending, beautician smiling, each waving at their age, blah, blah, blah. Fast cuts of happy customers leaving with their hair done. This is stuff that you would have to pay people for in the past. Now, AI give it to you for free. Okay. Um, I would go, there is one more, but I'm not going to go into it. And it actually asked me about, and I hope I'm still sharing screen here. It was another thing about
You good?
doing something. Okay. It was telling me again, do something with social media. It asked, give me, well, let me show you, because this is something if you're in the social media, it says, give me a social media content strategy. So this thing takes and tells you, okay, um, hair care, media content strategy, showcase your expertise, core themes, do this, do this, do this, aging gracefully, because I'm saying I'm crossing hairstyles and TikTok challenges. This is telling you things that somebody would take and charge you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Now I could take and put a prompt, a simple 3-line prompt into Chat GPT, and it'll take and give me a whole thing. Eventually, I'm going to actually, if I get to it, I'm going to show you where actually business plan where I asked for. All right. So here, in this case here, and I hope everybody can, the screen, the text is clear enough that you can actually see. But in this case here, I've gone into the learning session. So I'm going into study mode for Chat GPT, and I'm saying I want to. Okay, I asked the Chat study mode to teach me how to do division, and so it came back and it said, I want to get a sense of first of where you are with math. Have you already learned multiplication pretty well? So I come back and say, yes, I better. I'm 60 years old. It's, and so multiplication is like this, and it takes and it gives me this way. But then I tell it that I'm a visual learner. I like to see things. So can you show me that in graphic representation? So it says, sure. And it takes and it spits this out. So again, this for education. And again, this product is actually targeted for college to high school. So you figure college level is going to give you pretty much anything you need. And that's it. So so I'm going to bridge because I need to make sure I get into I hate when this does this to me with this guy here. Okay, let's see. All right. So here in the case, now I'm bridging into the business, help me create wealth. So in this case here, I told, and this is Gemini, another interface. I told Gemini to told it that it was an advanced researcher in senior care and aging crisis in the US with 20 years experience, recipient of international awards on top for caring for the elderly, blah, blah, blah. I presented to it that there's a challenge in America, ignored issue where people are aging and they don't have the ability to find care. I went through this recently with my mother who was showing signs of dementia. I was trying to keep her with me. I couldn't do it. You know, I just couldn't do it. So, we made accommodations for her back in Jersey, and she's doing fine. But I told it there's an issue here in America besides the fact that they don't care about you. So it comes back and it spits out. So I asked it for a business case, and then also the steps in building this business. And this thing came back and it said, target market, value proposition. It's giving me all this stuff, what the medium cost is. I told it to give me a 3 or 5 year projection on what revenue would be for this type of business. And it took and gave that to me. And so, so one of the first things it kind of spits out a executive summary for you, just like you would in a business plan. And it takes and basically is telling somebody, whoever you're trying to seek financing from, hey, this is really a problem. This is a gap that is not being addressed. And there's potential for opportunity here and potential for making a lot of money. All right, because I need to leave time for questions. So we can see from the prompting, the prompt was more concise, the response was more concise, and I could ask this thing for anything, and it's going to try to produce it the best it can. All right, again, this is my favorite tool, and I created a lot of these notebooks. And basically, think of a notebook as of a dedicated library. I think of Notebook LM as my personal, basically, kind of like Chat GPT over here with specialized knowledge, where I could go over and look over and say, hey, tell me about this, tell me about this. And so in the case here, I created one notebook on Imam Wardi Muhammad, and what I did was I went and scoured YouTube and other resources to say, to pull in, and I'm going to show you how you pull in this data, lectures of the Imam from Ramadan sessions, from this, Savior's Day, and all this stuff to create this. So let me first show you where about hallucinations. So I'm going to ask the Imam about Santa Claus. Tell me about Santa Claus. So it's going to take a second. And Imam, I hope, and for the audience, I might go 5 minutes over because I want to make sure I cover this good. So, but if you have
Go
to
ahead.
go, I understand.
We'll take the time necessary. Everybody has the freedom.
Okay.
It's Sunday after all. It's a day of rest.
Okay. All right, good. All
That's a
right, so
joke.
I could take a breath then. All right, so now in ChatGPT, instead of hallucinating like it would if I was on the internet, it says based on the provided sources, there is no information about Santa Claus. Okay, and so instead of hallucinating, it just said uh, the all these resources that you built this notebook out of, it does not know anything about that. But then I could say, tell me about the jinn. Let's see if the imam out of all these lectures, and you can guess, did the imam say anything about jinns? Yes, he did. So he talks about it. And then so that you fact check it and make sure that it's not hallucinating, it's given the reference points. So it goes to the specific source that you given, and it goes and it says, okay, jinn is a creation, is separate from humans. The Quran teaches that angels and human beings are two separate and different creations, blah, blah. Okay. So these are the types of things that you can do. I'm going to venture a little further in this, in that when we look at this capability, is that I then also have the ability to do an audio overview. So I could take and have this whole, all these sources that I have, um, give me a audio overview of what the imam was talking about, and that would be one heck of a thing. So what you can do is you could take and select specific ones. So I'm interested in what was talked about on Savior's Day on a sensitive issue in 2007. So I click that and say, give me an audio overview, and it will take and spit down a audio overview that I can listen to in the form of like a conversation. It does this thing where it's like somebody's interview, or not interviewing, but two people are talking, and they'll say, wow, yeah, what were some of the topics that were talked about today? And then the other persona would respond. So really great stuff. Another thing that they recently introduced in here is a video overview. So I actually can take and create a video where it would take and go through and create a video on a specific source, or it would take and try to combine these sources. uh, mind map is very critical because what it does, it helps you understand of how Notebook LM has logically grouped this the all this content that you gave it. So when I asked it how to do this, or I'm thinking how are you thinking about this, and it says, well, from all the Imam's sources, he came out with core principles and beliefs, and it spits that out. Okay, and then I can go into each of these and it breaks that out. And this is its logic. So when you ask a question, this is the logic that it's going through. So when you go down to uh you might ask about, us having to come out of slavery, and how do we take and fix ourselves here. We look at WD for our Muhammad's legacy, and it'll take and break out. And this is how um the Notebook LM is logically structuring what you've placed over here on the side. So what can I do with this? One thing I could do with it, I have one that I actually created for my daughter who was doing her master's in cybersecurity. She's trying to follow my way. I tell her not to, but I created for her a LLM, a Notebook LM that consisted of 3 multi-hour YouTube sessions um, on that specific exam, and combine that and created all the resources. Then I could take and I share that with her, right? So I take and share that with Amira, and it goes out and it gives Amira, depending upon the rights that I give her, I could either give her as a viewer, where she could actually see the content but can't touch it, or I could say chat only. So she would only get this box down here. And if she needed information on a particular subject, and this is how people create business, they might create business where they do whatever, and it's a matter of prompting. So it's like, tell me about the 7 layers, 7 OSI layers, some terminology that we use. And then this is something from, oops, oh, I did this in EMAMS. Sorry, EMAMS. Based on the prior resources, he don't have it. But if I was in my daughter's Notebook LM, it would take and share that with me.
Let me interrupt you right quick. I'm just remembering I'm actually on Study Al Islam today too, and
Okay.
I'm gonna have to be on there in 15 minutes. Uh,
Okay.
let I'm gonna hit you with this. You'll know what to do. Quick shot, but then and also uh, in actuality, you all can continue. I'm gonna tap Haja Kamila in as a co-host also, which is to say, obviously a lot of information, first exposure for many. We're going to add your content if you're available on the 21st also, so we can have a live presence to go over some of this content again, I'll say. Um, so okay, so to tell her, I know you're going to be giving stuff, giving some of the material that you presented, and you've told us that you're going to give us links to access it. So you send it to me, and of course I'll put it in a manner so that people can access it. Okay, so everybody here, this is not the end of it. This is the beginning. You're just getting exposure to it. Uh, get your questions clear, not just for this morning, just from now on, for the future of this, because this is the future in terms of that. However, uh, I think that anybody who has been exposed to ChatGPT at any level, and who are probably engaging it at the simplest level, knowing how to put a prompt in and wait for an answer. Uh, you gave me something that's extremely helpful that could level up individuals also, at least from wherever they are right now. That model of the chat in the hat, the chat in the hat. and so that individuals can craft their their particular prompts in the way that you pointed out earlier, so that you can get better, more refined replies from that. So if you could just give a brief on that, and I'm telling everyone that for the morning, I'm Haja Camila is going to be my replacement when I because I am going to have to go ahead and step away. Just do the chat in the hat piece from the generic uh, chat GPT prompt so that people can get a sense of you can create the actual chat, quote unquote, bot, if you will, that you want. I know you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're talking about, but I would have to go and pull that out because I haven't looked at that in a while, and I don't actually remember.
Okay.
But
Okay, well, move on, move on what you have, and so then we have the days coming to look forward to as we deepen our knowledge of that. So I'm gonna pull back off of that,
okay,
and
inshallah.
we do that.
So I'm
All right.
going to give two more valuable parts of this tool, and then I'm going to open it up for questions and answers, and then if no one has any questions, and alhamdulillah, thank you for your time and attention. And but if you have questions, I'll try to answer them the best I can. So one of the other important things out of here is this reports area. And what this reports does, again, we people use this as like a research tool. So they'll take in and say, well, create me a study guide, okay? Or create me a briefing document. I don't want to read that 100-page research document. Give me a briefing document. And it'll break it down to maybe 10 pages, 15 pages. Hopefully you can read that. And so that's one of the other capabilities. And then the last thing that I'm going to cover here is how do you add this material? How do you get this stuff in the notebook LM? And so this is increased over time. First thing to point out here is the big genie, little genie. If you got a little genie, not and you got free service, it's going to limit this to I believe 30 or something like that, where you only got 30 to 50 sources. And then each source has a limit. So you could pile up a whole bunch of text into a source, but it's going to limit you to the number of limits. Paid version, I got 300. I'll never exhaust that, inshallah. And so here I could take and drop information in there. I can click on Google Docs, and what it'll do is go to my Google Docs folder and says, what do you have? One of the key things here that would have saved me a whole bunch of time for doing the Chief Imam's session is through YouTube. I could go to YouTube and just put the URL for the YouTube. So if we want to take all the Halaqa sessions or group the some of the subjects that the Imam was doing for Halaqa, you could just take and get that specific URL from that particular session, and it will ingest that for you. I had to take before they introduced that capability. I had to take and go and convert the transcript, put the transcript in a document, or either cut and paste it in here, which your other option is the cut and paste data, and it puts it in there. So I know it was a lot, talk fast, so I apologize. And so if anyone had any questions, uh, open to some questions.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Alhamdulillah. I want to thank you for taking the time to do this. I'm still a little lost, a whole lot lost. But my question is this, because they say this thing is it can think on its own. I'm not, a very, very literate person when it comes to this computer stuff, but it says it can think on its own. It make its own decisions and stuff. My question is this, and this is what makes me hesitate on using it, is that if the thing can go off on its own and make its own uh, uh, choices and whatever it's doing, can it come into your system? And like you talk about security, what's the
Right.
security with this thing not, going ruckus on you? are going against you? What's the security
Well,
against that? That's what I need to.
okay, well that's a good question, but the first thing is that OpenAI, I'm not so much about Facebook, but Google and these folks, they're businesses, and um, this interface that you have to their system is through a web interface, which a lot of bad stuff comes through a web interface, but it, the short answer is that pretty much all of AI, when you even talk about its own ability to think, is there's what's called guardrails, and so guardrails are put in place on when they build these LLMs that I can't go and ask it how to build a bomb, right? It's going to come back and say, sorry, I can't give you an answer about that. How to create how do I use 3D printing to create my own pistol, right? It's not going to provide that. So it's guardrails that are put in place. But when it comes to actual thinking on its own, it has a specific task. And in the case of the Chat GPT, it's interaction with you is strictly conversational so that you can understand. It's like I'm the middleman between you and that big brain that's sitting behind me, so I'm going to take and provide that. I say out of all that I spoke about, your biggest concerns are those concerns on the cautionary page on the information that you input. So an example would be if I'm doing something in Chat GPT, I mean, potentially whatever I put in there can get out, right? You have what's called data breaches, and that's the stuff that I deal with all the time. And in the case of data breaches, everything that you could put in, including your name or the association that it has, which you depend upon at what point that it or what data it accessed during the breach, it will share that information. So as you working at a company, you don't take and put your company's financials into the Chat GPT because your company's information is now out there going to, first of all, it's going to be used to, that data is going to be used to train on, which is so much that it's going to affect you. But as with that example I gave you of posts is actually going out in public, you know, so, you put something in there and then, Askia's supervisor is like, that sounds like Askia asking that question because it made it public. So the cautionary note there is that there are limits on what they could do. But I wouldn't worry about the fact that this thing is going to do anything to my computer, especially my computer. I've got 4 security programs on my computer. It's just, in my business, you're just paranoid. And so you've got antivirus on your computer or whatever. If the computer try to download or if the AI try to download something to you, it should let you know.
Okay, one more question. I know other people. So, can somebody like take this program and use it? If it can't do it itself, can somebody else use it to like infiltrate the computer or whatever?
No. Yeah, that is a problem that I pretty much deal with, is that things have gotten a lot worse in cybersecurity since AI, because before more guardrails were put in place, a person would say, this person has this type of firewall. They use this type of authentication. They use this type of stuff to allow external access to their system. How could I circumvent that to enter that system? Well, before they put the guardrails up, ChatGPT is like, you gave me a task. I'm going to do that task. And it's going to tell you how I'm going to break into that organization. But now more guardrails are in place. But now the caveat is that if you word it in a certain way, again, prompting, that's why prompting is key. If you word it in a certain way, it could kind of get around, find out how to get around those guardrails. But yeah, I wouldn't worry again about any threats from Chat GPT. I would worry more about the information that you're sharing with Chat GPT is what's like in my business. We're in healthcare. We have a private instance of OpenAI in for Microsoft that only has our data, because we can't have patients' data going out into what's called a public AI. So anything that you put in here is going out into the public. Only with private instances of AI is that restricted to your organization.
Shukran. Alhamdulillah, brother. Thank you.
F1. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat if there was any questions over there.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I've had some success with a chat GPT, but on a very basic level, but alhamdulillah. But I would like to know the steps to get into the notebook LM. I've tried it before and I'm missing some steps. If you can give me the, entry steps for notebook LM.
Okay, that'd be real easy. If I could get to the right screen. Okay, so you've gone to notebooklm.google.com.
Okay.
You see that on the
I
top
see.
there.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I go there because I'm a user, it's going to log me into my account, but pretty much anyone would get a similar thing.
Okay.
And then somewhere through this interface, I'm already a subscribed user. It should give you the ability to sign up for what I believe Google calls it Google Pro. Let me see. No, it doesn't tell me. But it has me or knows me. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm a Google Pro level. There's a level above that, if this is not enough. But I hope that helps. But
Of course it does. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I thank everyone for their participation, making sure there's no other questions out there. I don't see any.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
My good brother, I had put it in the chat. I was hoping you might can share some thoughts or input about the influence some great African Americans had on AI. Our own brother, Dr. Abdul Alim Shabazz, as you know, and David Blackwell from Cal, and J. Ernest Wilkins, I think, go unsung, but they probably are the key architects. And I was wondering if you might share something about their legacy.
I don't know anything about them individually or their impacts to AI. I can say again that I'm self-taught in this, so again, it's not like I have a degree in it. Through the blessings of Allah, actually, in the areas or fields that I've been or the spheres that I've been operating in, I don't have a degree, but I operate around doctors and PhDs
Yes.
and so but I don't know specifically about their influences. Again, it's whatever again is top of mind. There is one sister and Imam referenced that was Cat in the Hat, and there's a sister from Oakland. She calls herself XEI. And she's been in a lot of these like Google and other places and operate and she's also ex-military and got the exposure through military's use of AI technologies and was dragged into the private sector for her experience. But it's so many people in this space, and again, my career started talking to me about cybersecurity. That's my job that the UCSF pays me for. So everything else here is recreational.
Your presentation was excellent, and you're just fine the way you are, good brother. And the new NVIDIA chip is actually named after one of those brothers, David Blackwell.
Oh, really?
That super chip is named in honor of him, and Jensen Wang has said that he is actually the father of AI, but we know who you are, and we love you for what you do for our community. I come there sometimes during the year, and this is excellent. God is blessing us, and so we'll share that information as we go in your context. Thank you, brother.
F1.
Mhm,
F1.
mhm.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Inshallah, those that are able to attend. We'll kind of be able to revisit or add more time if we need, and then I'll work with the imam to get the information out, that those resources that I wanted to share, especially again for those that are in business. This is powerful. This is stuff that people would pay $500 an hour, $2,000 or $3,000 a gig for, and now you don't have to do that anymore. You just take and run it in the Chat GPT, and you've got that content. All right.
Thank you so much, Brother Ibrahim, for your time and this information. I
F1.
wanted to give a reminder to the community that starting Monday, we will be beginning at 6 a.m. The time change for Halaqa will be 6 a.m. starting Monday, meaning tomorrow. And then on the 29th, there will be a new link for Imam Zayd will be leading the Halaqa, and there's a new link that will be available. It should have been emailed out. If that has not happened, please email Master Dwarthin so that you can get that link for the Halaqa for the 20 that starts on the 29th. So 6 a.m. tomorrow, and the 29th is a new link for Halaqa. And I believe that's it. Anything else from you, Brother Ibrahim?
No, thank everybody for their participation, and thank the man for the opportunity to share this with the community, because it is important.
Alhamdulillah. All right, so we will close out with Surah Asr. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Have a beautiful day, everyone.
You as well.
Thank you again.
Assalamualaikum.
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 Brother
Assalamu
Ibrahim. Thank you,
Thank
Brother
you.
Ibrahim. Excellent.
Thank you, Brother Ibrahim.
Yes.
You as well. Assalamualaikum.